Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today again. Now, we are going to have a great show. We are going to talk about, you know what, the Trump voter. And, well, you know, we're going to talk about what it is that is wrong. I don't want to say what is wrong with the Trump voter, but what's going to happen when they do realize that they've been had. But, you know, there's something interesting today that I want to show you guys right up front to just give you an indication of why people who are, let's say, watching Fox News and the other channels have a tendency to be misinformed. Maybe also why we should consider being quite a bit nicer with these folks just to make sure that, you know, what we're doing is giving them the options to change. But anyhow, if you want to see what they do, you guys know everything that happened yesterday. Yesterday, what happened was it was found out, somebody leaked it to I think it was originally the New York Times, then NBC, then the Washington Post. What they leaked was that Donald Trump actually fired, what's the name, Mueller. And when he fired Mueller, the person who was supposed to do the firing decided that, well, I am not going to do that. If you fire him, I am gone. Trump came to his senses and decided not to do it. But before I show you that video that I really want to show you, I want to remind you guys that this is a call-in show, call-in number for those that are listening on Blog Talk Radio. It is 646-716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Again, those that are on Facebook Live, you can leave me messages right under the video. If you're leaving messages under the video, we're kind of shared all over the place. And please do remember, though, please go ahead and share all these videos. We need them shared. This is how we're going to get all this other information that isn't necessarily carried by the mainstream media or the interpretation carried by the mainstream media. This is how we get the progressive word out as well. So please do remember to go ahead, and if you're watching this right now, please go ahead and share it through your own social media, whether that is Facebook, wherever, Instagram. Just share the link to this show and let other people get a chance to see it as well. Now, one of the things that I said earlier on is what we want to show folks is that, you know, there's a reason why it is so hard for you to get to a whole lot of these people, because of the media that they're consuming. And the media that they're consuming is very effective. Today on what I saw on Morning Joe, is they brought in some snippets from the Sean Hannity show, and it shows how effective and how they keep these people confused. It's like, look here, look there, check this video out on Sean Hannity. I think it was last night, and then we'll take it on the other side.
And says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Ed Henry that, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions? You know, we'll deal with this tomorrow night. We have a shocking video of the day to bring you, by the way. This footage comes to us from Arizona, where you see that red SUV, hides police chase.
I think you guys get the laughter. The reason I found that quite amusing, and the reason I'm showing that one is to tell you what's done in media today. In other words, when Sean Hannity found himself in a position where he simply could not lie anymore, he had to do a very important thing: the bait and switch. Hey, This is happening. But check this out. This is even more exciting. And that is what we have in politics right now, right? What's occurring in politics right now is these guys are doing a lot of bad things. And the reason why Republicans love Trump right now is that Trump has so much attention on himself that there's a whole lot of things happening in the background that you don't know about. You don't know what they're doing to healthcare. You don't know what they're doing to the environment. You don't know what they're doing with energy. You don't know what they're doing with fracking. You don't know what they're doing selling the lands, selling the public lands. There are all these things that they're doing. You know why they love Trump? Because as Trump makes a fool of himself, as Trump consumes all the news, you are looking at Trump. And you are not looking at what the Republicans are doing for their wealthy benefactors. And those are the things that we have to keep our eyes on. That is why we have shows like this to say, hey, don't look at it that way. But the other part, what I wanted to do in this show today is I really want you to see, really want you to go ahead. First of all, if you're the Trump voters that are listening, I do have a lot of Trump voters. I look at some demographic data. I have Trump voters, Trump supporters listening to this show. And I want to ask you to also call in 646-716-5812 or leave a message. I promise I am not one of those flamers or whatever. I'll give you your piece to say and we can have an intelligent exchange as well. Because I tell you what, we have to get busy with making some changes around this country. But anyhow, so I wanted to let you see that video because importantly, what it actually shows is when they're caught lying to their constituents, they change the subject rather quickly. And in changing the subject rather quickly, they do it in sort of a very exciting way. There's a thing. The thing that Move to Amend used to do. Move to Amend is an organization that is trying to remove money out of politics through the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. And what they did is they had this thing called Bread and Circus. They had a skit called Bread and Circus. It was a Move to Amend from Utah. Ashley, I don't remember her last name, was the one in charge of that one. And in that, what they showed is how in the past, all the monarchies used to do is keep their pews entertained with a little bit with magic tricks, a circus, have them keep them happy, but at the same time give them a little bit of food, and by doing that you keep them fed and happy. In America today we have cheap food, Burger King, McDonald's, all these guys, a lot of cheap food, relatively speaking. I mean, some people say, oh, the price is high now, but relatively speaking, the food's pretty darn cheap. And you have all that crazy entertainment. You have Maury Povich and all these. You turn on some of these channels during the day. I mean, you wonder, are these really Americans acting this way? Is this really what's going on? You keep people happy and you keep them entertained. But, there's one thing. When I watch these crazy programs, there's one thing that happens. I have a hard time turning it off. Because you sit down there and it's, my God, this is so entertaining. I can't believe people are doing that. And I can't believe I'm watching that. But that is how the plutocracy takes control of your mind. Anyhow, the title of the show today, Trump supporters, will you please wake up for the sake of the country? Will you please wake up for the sake of the country, my dear friends? And when I say my dear friends, you guys are my friends too. I'm a left-wing liberal. Doesn't matter. You're my friends. We all want the same things. We have a few differences, but we want the same things. Anyhow, subtitle, can't you see the man is dangerous for you and the country? Can you see that? You don't yet. I hope over the period of time we can sit down and talk and really find a way to get to you to show you that no, he is not in your best interest. Anyway, today's show is just a plea. It is a plea for common sense. It is a request that current Donald Trump supporters open their eyes objectively and make the attempt to see what most Americans see. One does not need to stay in the dark. Liberation from Trump can be cathartic. I think it's time for all of us to try it. I mean, it's not at all hard. I mean, I have a feeling we're going to be liberated from Trump one way or the other. Likely, I think something is going to be coming down, whether it's impeachable or whether the Republicans have the guts to impeach Whether there's a blue wave that comes across that allows for what should be necessarily an impeachment, we don't quite know quite yet. Anyhow, what are your thoughts? I would love for a whole lot of people to call in, and I would love for you to be an integral part of the discussion and not just listening to a monologue, a soliloquy. I would love to have more people come into the fold, come and talk, say their piece. You disagree with me, you agree with me, you partially agree, you partially disagree. Let us know. That is the way we actually get the conversation moving forward. Anyhow, folks, please do remember, if you're tweeting, tag your tweets with Politics Done Right. Please follow Egberto Willies on Twitter. That's Egberto, last name Willies, and be a part of the fold. Like the page Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies, please, on Facebook. Again, that is the page Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies. The broadcast is on Facebook Live. It's also on Blog Talk Radio, and we carried and syndicated in other places. So you can find us just about anywhere. iTunes, Play, everywhere you can find the show as well. So if you need to share it with others, that is easily accessible. Before I go into the blog of the week, let me get to some of you on the on Facebook Live. What you're saying? Your sound is better today. Okay, thank you so kindly, my friend. It's interesting that in my local studio, it's better than in the professional studio. I say with confidence as a sound technician. Well, thank you so kindly, Mr. John T. Grimes. Kelix Emmanuel Rudder says, partner. Thank you very much, my friend. And we have Leticia Galinato. The quote, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they have been fooled. Supposedly, is from Mark Twain. Oh, interesting. Never heard that before, but thank you for putting that in. Now, I'd love for some of you to give us a call, and let's go ahead and keep the conversation going. Anyhow, you guys know what time it is. And that is not the song for what time it is. This one is.
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Now, the weekly blog post, and believe it or not, I was just sitting down in Starbucks this morning. That's where I do most of my writing, organizing, blogging, everything. Starbucks. And by the way, Starbucks pays me nothing for saying, for calling them out all the times, but I simply love Starbucks for one specific reason. Any company who treats its employees and give the employees the types of benefits that they have, as they did, they're my kind of company, and they're the kind of relative capitalism that I stand for, not the capitalism that we have in this society today. But for the things that Starbucks does with its employees, I love it. Let me just give a quick story before I go to the blog of the week. Here in Kingwood, where I am from, where I live, we had a flood. Starbucks was flooded. 6 or 7 feet of water was in the Starbucks that I go to every day. And every single one of those employees were placed elsewhere until they rebuilt the store in about, I guess, in about 3 or 4 months. I think they built the store back in about 4 months, or repaired the store in about 4 months. And they're all back, and they all have their benefits. They're all doing very well. That's what I call responsible. That's what I call a responsible corporation. So what I want to say, kudos to you, Starbucks, for the things that you do. Anyway, that's where I do all of my writing, or most of my writing. That's where I do a whole lot. That's where I just wrote this little piece this morning. Anyway, the title of it is, What Happens When Trump Supporters Realize They've Been Had? Here it is. There is a reckoning that will occur, and it may be closer than most think. And when it happens, it won't be pretty. There are some crazy Trump supporters out there, and the sane ones will not likely have the sway to mitigate the carnage. Evangelicals may never admit that they've been had. They'll never admit that they made a mistake with Trump. But it should concern us when other Trump supporters, like the white nationalists and militias, finally see that Trump and the right-wing Republicans screwed them. Some believe that day will never come. One must remember that even McCarthyism came to an end. Even McCarthyism came to an end. One should fear that the finalization of Trumpism could be violent. And that is one of my biggest fears, that the finalization of Trumpism is a violent catharsis. Trump built his base on hate. He built his base on promises to the white underclass whom capitalism left out. Let me break from my blog post there. There is a theory out there. A lot of the people in the liberal intelligentsia, my people, pretty much want to throw away the Trump voter. They take up the Hillary Clinton's deplorable statement, and they believe that these are some hateful, racist people, all that kind of stuff. The truth of the matter is some of them are. The reality is not all of them are, but even more so, I think it is important to devote effort into talking to these people. Because if you believe what I believe, if you believe that several things like race is a social construct, if you believe that the plutocracy depends on us having differences that keep us apart for it to survive, those of us who are in the know, the progressives that are in the know, should know better. It's not about turning the other cheek with the Trump voter or the Trump supporter. It's about not allowing the plutocracy to succeed by working on those who are gullible enough to accept what they've done. So if we leave that Trump voter, that Trump supporter, that misinformed voter, and I'm not talking about I'm not talking about that racist that cannot be redeemed. I'm talking about those people that are simply believing that folks like me or other people of color are taking away their birthright, because that was how they were cultured. They were cultured that way from a plutocracy who needs to have a group of people cultured that way, creating divisions so that very minute amount of people can control us all. And in doing so, have a pecking order, and that pecking order is their survival. Because if we all realize what they're doing to us, we won't allow that to occur. If we ever come together, and for those who listen to my show frequently, my phrase is always, when we unite the ghettos, the barrios, and Appalachia, then the plutocracy is dead. What that means is when we forget about all those things that are trying to keep us apart, then the plutocracy is dead. This is all by design. You don't get a system that only allows a few to be super wealthy, another substantial percentage to be comfortable, who become the guardians of the gate. In other words, those 20% of people that are engineers and lawyers and by the way, I'm an engineer. I just saw the light. But those that are engineers, doctors, lawyers that are making those high salaries, not wealthy, but high salaries, they are the protectors of the gate. They are the protectors, those middle managers. They protect the plutocracy from all of you people, the masses, that fall for Trump, that fall for all those people that are screwing us all. It's a mindset that has to get changed, that we have to understand. So I broke from the blog to kind of put that into the fold there, but we'll kind of get back into that. Anyhow, let me see where I was on this blog post. Okay, let me kind of reread because there are people coming and going. So I'll start again with the part on evangelicals. Evangelicals may never admit that they made a mistake with Trump, but it should concern us when other Trump supporters, like the white nationalists and malicious finalists, see that Trump and the right-wing Republicans screwed them. So, some believe that day will never come. One must remember that McCarthyism came to an end. One should fear that the finalization of Trumpism could be violent. Trump built his base on hate, promises to the white underclass whom capitalism left out, and promises to evangelicals. Fulfilling some of these promises are easy, while others are just impossible under the tenets of our current economic system. And I need you to understand that, but we'll proceed, and then I hope some calls come in for some more clarifications. The pledges to evangelicals were not difficult to deliver at all. That's the easiest one to deliver, right? Put a right-wing conservative judge on the Supreme Court. Change healthcare rules to make women's choices that more difficult. Give wealthy church overlords more say in the political arena so that they can further theocratize the country. Most politicians, left and right, are afraid to tackle the evil within the church. So they pretty much get carta blanca, carte blanche. That's what they do. So, evangelicals fulfilling their needs is simple. And I'm not talking about regular Christians, the ones who really worship their Lord, the ones who really want to do good, the ones really are out there for the poor, the ones who really support food stamps for those who really can't afford food, the ones who want medical attention for people. Those Christians are great. But there is this sect, there's this evangelical sect that make the Pharisees look like angels. If you don't know who the Pharisees are, go back to the Bible and check it out, my friends. By the way, I read the full, New Testament, and I remember about the Pharisees as well. So, the Pharisees, these evangelicals of today make Pharisees look like angels. His promise to build the wall, while not impossible, will not happen because not even the president cares. The president doesn't care. Do you think the president cares if there's a wall or not? The president is a nationalist, capitalist, internationalist. What I mean by that, nationalist is needed to keep his power locally. He's an internationalist because all his money comes from, well, some would say, allegedly, laundering Russian money. I don't know, but look it up. Let's see. As Trump always say, when he was talking about the birth certificate, Trump would say, they say, I have heard them say, and that's how he protects himself from lawsuits, right? So I've heard them say that a lot of Trump's money comes from money laundering. I don't know, but that's what I hear a lot of people say. Now, his promise to build a wall, while not impossible, will not happen because not even the president cares. He would instead give the money necessary to construct a full-length fence to his wealthy benefactors. In other words, don't sit down there thinking, oh, Trump wants to build a wall to keep people out. That's not why Trump wants to build a wall. In fact, the people that are going to build a wall for Trump, the portions of the wall that will get built for Trump, are likely going to be undocumented workers. Those are the guys that are going to probably build that wall on the border. Realize what the wall is. The wall is a big boondoggle that will make his wealthy benefactors, after him getting kickbacks, a whole lot of money. So anybody thinking that Donald Trump is building a wall to keep people out have to understand the concept of who Donald Trump is. Donald Trump his son was correct about one thing. Donald Trump only cares about green. Only green. So when he tells all those white nationalists, all those racists that they're building the wall to keep out those brown people, he doesn't care. What he wants to do is build a wall so that he can pay a few of his friends who are construction, who built his buildings, who built these other things. They'll build a wall and he'll get his kickback in some Swiss account. I mean, this is third world dictatorship kind of thing occurring here in the United States, folks. That is what's occurring. This is what we have to get into the minds of those Trump voters. They're being used. He told them that he was going to do something about the opioid epidemic. Is there anything being done? He said he was going to get some jobs for them. Wait a minute. Where did all his tax cuts go again? Where did he invest in tax cuts that would create any factories in Middle America, Wisconsin, Ohio, Michigan, and all these places? What factory are any of these people who got tax breaks are going to put there? You know who's going to get the factories if they decide to build factories? They're going to build factories in places they like. And those are the coasts, folks. And Texas. Texas always have a special place. Those are the people that are going to get. So here we have all these people that voted for him because they think he's going to give a tax break. He gives a tax breaks to the wealthy folks on the coast. And these guys are going to build all the stuff and spend all the money on the coast. And who's going to be left behind? Those folks those white folks in Appalachia again. That is the reason, folks. For those of you who are listening to me in Appalachia, listen, we have to team up, folks. We have to form that team and stop letting Trump play you. His promise to build the wall, while not impossible, will not happen because the president doesn't care. He would instead give the money necessary to construct a full-length fence to his wealthy benefactors. Of course, he will still build portions so that his builder friends can further rip off the taxpayer. Remember, a ladder or a tunnel in the most desolate area of any well-designed fence will still defeat the well-designed fence. Because if you make the fence 6 feet deep, 10 feet deep, 20 feet deep, we have diggers, and you know what? We have a lot off on the south side of the border, a lot of manpower. And we can dig, and we can dig, and we can dig, and we can dig. And we can, if we really want to get to the promised land, we can get to the promised land. So you're being played. A wall does not work. A wall cannot work. A wall is a waste of money. If Donald Trump cared about his people in Appalachia, Donald Trump would have taken the $28 billion that he's asking Congress for and said, you know what? I want to go into these places and I want to rebuild the infrastructure in Appalachia. I want to rebuild those old broken down schools next to that mountain. I want to help them turn that beautiful, the Cascades, all these beautiful places in Appalachia. I want to make it so that those people on the coast will come. That is what I want to see. That is what I want to hear. Hello, welcome aboard Patricia Roddock-Ponton and Chase Escamilla. I'll say some of the words that they have on the blog post after I finish with the blog of the week. But this is something that I hope you guys are listening to, and I want some of you to call in, folks. Don't just listen. You talk a lot. We have thousands of people listening now, actually, but nobody calls. Come on, give us a call. Anyhow, continuing with the blog post. Jobs, jobs, jobs. There is no policy the president is proposing that has the potential to create jobs on a different slope from what President Obama left. In fact, the tax cut at the expense of a spending, or rather, is at the expense of a spending bill. Oh, that's an actual typographical error, but it's okay. Like an infrastructure bill ensures that reality. In other words, if Trump had just taken all this money that he's talking about, the wall, and thrown that money into spending, spend that money to build things, that would generate what you call in economics, because most of that money will go to people who are wanting something, they don't have ready cash, their marginal propensity to consume is much larger than that of those other people, the rich people that got the tax break. So that will circulate within the economy like no other, and the economic activity would accelerate. But Trump knows something. He knows that you didn't take Economics 101. He also knows that Republicans have already programmed you into believing that tax cuts are effective. The truth of the matter, folks, tax cuts are not effective. Tax cuts are a boondoggle every single time. There's no doubt. If you want to do the math, we can do the math offline for you. But tax cuts don't work, and it's simply, if you figure out how money circulates, you'll understand why tax cuts don't work. You give the tax cut to those who will spend it. That will create demand. Demand gets created. Factories get built to increase the necessary supply for that demand. But no capitalist is going to build supply unless they know there's a high potential for demand. You're going to form a company. You're going to try to hope. You're going to try to make it as possible enough that there's some demand there. Okay, so jobs, jobs, jobs. There's no policy the president is proposing that has the potential to create jobs on a different slope from what President Obama did. So therefore, if he had used all this money that he wants for a wall, it would have been much more effective. Now, deporting immigrants, most of whom work, is a double-edged sword. Evangelicals will have to answer to their hypocrisy of breaking up families and the tenets of Christianity where they are responsible for those souls. but it is more profound than that. Deportation will create higher prices and shortages for produce. It means all those small restaurants and convenience stores will go bankrupt as they lose their reliable customers. I live here in Kingwood. Let me just give you one of the things that liberals, we do all the time is we give you the numbers, right? We tell you, oh, X percentage will go bankrupt or whatever. What Republicans are great on doing is they give you a narrative. They give you a story. So here's my story. I'm going to be the Republican liberal here. Here's my story. We have in this neighborhood, everybody, the vast majority of people have folks doing their lawns. And you know who most of these folks doing their lawns are. And at around between 11:30 and 1 o'clock, all these guys go for their, not siesta, but they go to get their lunches. So you go to every convenience store in Kingwood, and you see all these trucks that are pulling trailers that are populating those convenience stores, and they're buying beer, they're buying their burritos, they're buying all these different items. There's a large percentage of these guys, because I've asked, given that I speak Spanish, I get a little bit of a break. They'll confess certain things, especially when they find out that I'm an activist supporting DACA. I will get stories. Oh yes, I am legal but my wife isn't, or I am not legal but my wife is. All these kinds of stories I get from these people that are cutting lawns all around town. But they spend a ton of money in all of these stores around town. What is ironic is a lot of these stores in town are owned by people who live in town. And these clowns do not understand that and I live in a very conservative town. And a lot of these people don't understand that in so doing, in supporting somebody like the Donald Trump who wants these people gone, all these Kingwood women that have their homes taken care of at an economic price, that get their lawns done at a very economic price, and that get all these things done at a very economical price, will somehow now either pay a hell of a lot more or don't have access to those services either. Step number 2, Kingwood just flooded. Several thousand homes in Kingwood flooded. Now, if you take a look around Kingwood to see what's occurring, first of all, there's a shortage of people who can repair these homes. Because, again, you know who is doing it. And we have, with climate change, something that, again, your president does not believe in, there will be more of these disasters throughout the country. So we need to ensure that we have the type of population that will be there to take care of these particular incidences. And you know what? In the process of these guys being completely scared, many of them are leaving to their own volition. What that means is a net immigration into the United States of America right now through the southern border, 0. So you're going to spend $28 billion to build a piece of the wall to stop people who are not coming, and to pay folks who won't spend the money in the places where money needs to be spent, when you could have otherwise done much better with your money. So if you are a Trump supporter listening to me, I hope you're listening to these words. If you're a friend of a Trump supporter listening to me, I hope you're ready to send these words to those folks in a nice way, in a way that they can accept it, in a way that you're not really breathing down their throat. And if you're a Trump supporter listening, come on, give me a call and make a counter argument. And I'd love for you to do it. You know, again, we're not going to fight. We're just going to have an exchange of ideas if you decide to call. Anyway, the problem for the president is not only math, but economics. The problem with his less poor class and middle class supporters is that most are likely not sufficiently versed in these to realize Trump was selling them crap. The wealthy who voted for him knew what they were getting exactly. The further transfer of wealth from the masses to them. In other words, the pilfering of the masses. So what happens when Trump supporters realize they've been had? What happens when the Trump supporters finally find out they've been had? Folks, the telephone number is 646-716-5812. I can continue with a monologue, a soliloquy forever. This is a subject dear to my heart. This is a subject that I know just about just about everything on the subject. And I can go on and on and on, but boy, would I love to have some people call in and tell me what they think. Telephone number 716-5812. Again, that number is 646-716-5812. Let me go to the Facebook page and see what we have here. Let's go. Chase is, let's bring that up. Okay. All right, we have Escamilla. Escamilla, sorry for the ramble. I don't think you're well, maybe I just hadn't seen what you had to say, but I don't think that's a ramble. Hello, sir. Well, hello, Johnson. Let me refresh the screen and see if I get some more, and go from there. But anyway, folks, if you have Trump relatives, and by the way, I do have Trump relatives. You know, I must admit that I do have Trump relatives, and I try to talk, and the reason I try to talk is because we don't have another choice. We have to go ahead and try to convince. If you can see what Trump is doing right now, is he's doing the proverbial bait and switch. They found out that he lied about possibly firing not Comey but Mueller, and what did he do? He goes ahead and he said, "Oh no, that's fake news. That is fake news," but it isn't. We have all the corroborating information on that. So anyhow, folks, 646-716-5812. And if you're a frequent listener of this show, I want to remind all of you guys that, you know, we do a lot of work in activism out here. So if you're listening to this show, if you're promoting this show, if you're sending these shows elsewhere, we also want to ask you to be a part of the show, be a part of supporting the show. And what I'm going to do on the screen right now is put a little link on the screen for just a short while, because I want to concentrate mostly on the subject at hand. I'd like to concentrate on people calling in, and calling in at 646-716-5812. But again, I'd like for you to remember that these shows also need your support. Without your support, we do not stay involved. We do not stay alive at all. I want to go ahead and play one thing for you again. We spoke about the bait and switch. I want to show you exactly why some of your Trump supporters get the bait and switch and how it actually functions. Check out what Hannity did.
I don't even know where to begin, Elise. So let's not just make it about what we just saw. Over this week, and certainly over the last 6 months, we've seen this coming from people who are Trump apologists. You know, like for instance, people say, fire Bob Mueller. The New York Times reports, Trump wanted to fire Bob Mueller.
Times is trying to distract you. They have a story that Trump wanted Mueller fired sometime last June, and our sources, and I've checked in with many of them, they're not confirming that tonight. And the president's attorney dismissed the story and says, no comment, we're not going there. And how many times has the New York Times and others gotten it wrong? All right, so we have sources tonight just confirming to Henry that, maybe Donald Trump wanted to fire the special counsel for conflict. Does he not have the right to raise those questions? You know, we'll deal with this tomorrow night. We have a shocking video of the day to bring, by the way. This footage comes from Arizona, where you see that red SUV, high-speed police chase.
Okay, so you see what he did there. Now he had to tell the truth. He had to tell the truth that, in fact, what is occurring is that Trump really did that. But what does he tell his people that are watching Fox News? Okay, take a look. This is what Trump is doing. But anyway, look at this crash. Look at what this crash happened, and the crash is a lot more interesting. Okay, we have more people speaking here. We have Louis Johnson. Louis Johnson says when they find out that they've been had, they will try to place the blame in a convenient corner. And what corner would you say that is, Louis? I have no idea what corner that would be, but I can have a little feel about that. Now, let's see. Chase K. Escamilla. Old capitalism cannot survive either, but fear gets votes. Mexico and Texas, we all have the same remote phones. Wall nationalistic populism in a dog whistle to the dying brick and mortars. Let's see. He's bad at business, good at marketing. He used 3 digital ads on his base. That is true. The digital ads work, and one of the reasons that I like to tell folks when you listen to programs like mine or others, let's say TYT, Young Turks, or other online progressive shows, why it is so important for you to share these is because that is exactly how Trump won. And when I say won, remember he won the Electoral College, but he won in the right places. And what the Russians helped him do using Facebook and these other mediums, and these other mediums are very successful at what they do, is that they were able to create a narrative out there. They were able to make the people who are seeing these videos have the belief that what they're seeing is true. Now, there was no counter activity. If you take a look at how let's look at the shutdown that just occurred with Democrats, right? Democrats didn't vote to keep the government open. They didn't shut down the government. The government was shut down because Republicans could not come to an agreement with Democrats so that Democrats would give them the extra 10 votes that they needed, or 10 or so votes that they needed to keep the government open. So don't ever buy into the narrative like it's a Democratic shutdown. It was a Republican shutdown. But here's the problem. Before the shutdown occurred, one thing that Democrats didn't do is they didn't prepare America for what they were doing. They didn't go out and say, the reason we're shutting this, the reason we are not voting for this is that we cannot separate families. The reason we're not voting for this is that we cannot vote for something that isn't going to ensure that our populations is fed. And the last thing they needed to do is remember Claire McCaskill, the senator from Missouri, when she said, when the shutdown occurs, we still want the military to be paid. And the person who said no to that was Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader of the House. So Democrats didn't prepare Americans pre-shutdown to take the high ground, so that by the time the shutdown occurred, the people who had the narrative was the president. The president had the narrative, and Republicans, they were so good at it. Oh, Democrats are shutting the government down. Democrats are don't care about chips because we did offer chips after all. Democrats are shutting the government down because they prefer those illegal aliens over, and I'm saying that's what they're saying. We know it's undocumented workers, but illegal aliens, they are shutting it down because they care more about those illegal aliens than they care about feeding those starving American kids. So they got the narrative in their favor immediately. And then during that's what they did during. Then after the shutdown, meaning after the Democrats caved, what did they do? They went ahead and said, you see, they had to cave because they know they were wrong. So Democrats caved after 3 days, and in caving after 3 days, gave them another soundbite that says, look, if you really were doing what you were supposed to do, the cave wouldn't have occurred in 3 days. It would have occurred till something happened, or rather, it wouldn't have occurred at all. What we say is that it is time for Democrats to learn how simply to go as crazy as and I don't want to say crazy, but do the things in the same manner that Republicans do it, and say, no matter what, this is what we're going to do until you give us what we want. You don't get the votes. And people say, well, Americans will then rebel. They'll say, you're the one holding the system back. No. The thing about it is we have experience with this, right? It's not like Republicans hadn't done this before. And what price did they pay again? What price did they pay? Oh, I forget. They won. They won. Please remember that, people. They won. Their intransigence won. They didn't give President Obama his Supreme Court justice. They won. They didn't give him the changes to the Affordable Care Act that he wanted. And what was the results for the Republicans? They won. So let's be clear here. Those people that are pushing the fallacy that somehow being strong means that you're going to lose is far from the case. Okay, let me get to another one here. Come on, let's pull that up. But anyway, so don't you dare forget that these people, with the way they implement the policies, as intransigent as they get, they win. And you know what? You know what Americans like? American like people who win. Okay, great analogy. Talked about that yesterday, how the 99% spend 110% of their worth, paycheck to paycheck. 1% spending less than 10% in 100% economy. Yeah, that is true, right? In other words, by the time, I'm glad you said, a lot of people don't understand this. They talk about the wealthy, or rather, Americans spend more than they earn, It's not really so when you involve the time value of money. But here's the biggest ripoff that is occurring in today's day. Where do most people keep their homes? I mean, their value, their wealth. Most people's wealth are now kept in their homes. And what is the biggest seller, biggest financial instrument being sold right now? There's something called the reverse mortgage. So whereas people would have most of their money again in their homes, and when they die, they could pass that on. What is occurring now is things are in such dire straits that they've even created new instruments to further take monies away from people. And how do they do that? Reverse mortgage says now, okay, you can stay living in the house and we will tell you that you still own the home. Wink, wink, you still own the home. But when you die, there's nothing there left to give to your kids. There's nothing left because you've had to use that. You had to take the value out of your house to survive. One of the largest scams there is on the market right now, and nobody talks about it. Student loan, same thing. Everybody's paying less taxes, right? Well, not really. The ones that are paying less taxes are the wealthy. And what happens then? We increase the price of tuition. And in doing all of that, what occurs? We have kids with debt, and where they're living now, they're back home living with their parents. And a lot of the parents like to say things like, these kids are not like how it was when we were young. That's not true. These kids are no different than we were when we were young. The only difference is that we had a hand up. And right now what we're doing is pilfering the kids. What we're telling these kids right now, today, is that when they get out of college, when I got out of college, I had a small student debt to pay. Small student debt, because Texas was one of those states that was still subsidizing college the way it should. It was investing in people. Now, my daughter's in med school. She'll probably have $500,000 in debt. Will be $500,000 in debt. So therefore, she's going to give some banker several hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest. That's her money going directly to the bankers, because we, the parents, decided to support government that were lousy, government that decided they would give the monies of the future to the present, to a few in the present. So we have to understand all these concepts if we really want to see what's happening in this country with regards to our economy and with regards to a whole lot more. The Trump voter, first of all, most people don't understand this. The Trump voter, but most people kind of have an idea of how they need to vote, because they have an idea which politicians support their best interest. Trump gave his pew. He made them believe that he was really looking out for them. And it is on us now to find some way, some manner in which to get to them. Okay, let me go back to some of these guys here. Okay, we have Cecile Johnson. Cecile Johnson says evangelicals are really here. Let's see, evangelicals are really heresy. They adore the golden calf. You know something? You remember? I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the golden calf, the Jewish people when God left them back 40 more years in the desert. Yeah, it was I found that kind of interesting that they'll just take all their gold, build some kind of a statue, and started worshiping a statue. Hey, religion has been, since I've been a mature person, religion always have me scratching my head. I just don't get it. Okay, Patricia Rodak Panton, what do you mean by they protect the gatekeeper? Okay, what do I mean by they protect the gatekeeper? This is what I mean by the gatekeeper. If you are comfortable, you have a tendency not to buck the system. If you are comfortable, you also have the time to do a whole lot of things that other people don't have the time for. I'm going to encircle this in a minute. So what happens is this: you have the very, very wealthy, the 1%, the people who are the real shareholders of all these corporations. These are the guys who own everything. but then they hire high-price managers, high-price executives, and pay them very well. These guys are paid very well. I'm not saying they're not worth their pay. I'm just saying that they're paid very well. Now, and that only comprises about 10% of the entire population. And then we have the other 10%, the one that completes the 20%, that they're comfortable. That's a comfortable middle class. And then everybody else is either lower middle class, poor, living paycheck to paycheck. These people don't have the time to research. These people don't have the time to do anything. They just have to listen to charlatans who are telling them, do it this way and we'll make life better for you. Do it that way or we'll make life better for you. Now, you have the people building the narrative. That 10 and 20% are the people who are telling you capitalism is good, capitalism work. And why are they singing that song? They're singing that song because it is working for them. Because the masters of this economy has primed them sufficiently that they can see no other way. They can only see that, wait a minute, I made it. More than likely, if I made it, there's a good chance you could as well. What they don't understand is that there's a limited amount of those in that 20%. There is a limited amount of people in that 20%. I got a call and I got to go to that call right away. But Patricia, we can explore that some more. But go ahead, 512. Who do I have the honor of speaking with? 512, you're on. Telephone number 512. Okay, 512 is not answering, so let me go to telephone number 314. 314, you're hot. Okay, let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Maybe this is a technical side. This may be my technical side. I don't think so. Telephone number 512, you are on the air. I can't hear you. Are you speaking? Okay, let's try again 512 and see if 512 will come in. 512, you're on the air. For some reason, these two calls are not coming through. Let's see if it's something. Are you guys there at all? All right, bear with me, folks. Let's see if we have a controller problem here. I don't think so, but we will look. I think you're on and you should be coming through. Okay. For some reason, the phone lines aren't coming in. I don't quite understand why, but we'll find out in a minute. Maybe we have it on the wrong channels. We'll see. It seems like it's going to the correct codec, so I am not sure why we are not hearing the telephone lines right now. But if you will, go ahead and type it in, my friend. Go ahead and type it in. Let's see. This is interesting. Okay, let's go a little bit further and try to do that again. Let's try to see if all our lines are in. That looks like it checks out. Okay. Anyhow, while I talk here, I'll go ahead and go through some more of the messages until I can see if I can think of some reason why we're not getting these messages to it. Just could be that Blog Talk Radio or system who controls the telephone numbers are probably off of whack as well. But I'll figure that out. Okay, let's see other calls here. Patricia, if you're still there and want to get some more explanations on the gatekeeper story, please add another message, and I'll hopefully see that message. Let's see another message here coming in from John T. Okay, Leticia Galinato. The quote is easier. Let's see. We have. I do remember who said this, but it is true. It is easier to see people than it is to convince them. I think I read that one already. Somewhere in hell, Joseph Goebbels is looking at Fox News and bearing and beaming with pride. Okay, let's see. Divide and conquered. Absolutely right. Let's see. What else is there? AT&T laid off 100,000 employees right after the cut. I don't think it was 100,000 employees, though. I don't remember how much it was, but it wasn't that amount. But they did cut quite a bit of employees as soon as they gave back some money. Anyhow, folks, we had some technical difficulties with the phones that we'll make sure and have it cleaned up by, what's today, Friday? We'll make sure and have that cleaned up by Monday, because the washer calls came in at the end of the show. We had 4 calls. Couldn't speak to any of them because something went wrong with the phone. If you can go ahead, okay, let you call back again. Let me see if I can get you through now and see if that works or not. Okay, sir, are you there at all? Okay, no cigar. And we're coming down to the end of the show. I would really, really like to get this through. I'm going to try a different channel and see if somehow we can go in from another channel as well, because this should be working today. Bear with me, my friends. I'll see if we can, if there's some other channel that we can use to try to get those phones to ring in, because you never know when you're doing things live. These things happen. Okay, let's see if what channels can, I'm going to try another channel here and see if it works on this channel. Okay, are you there at all? Anybody on that line? Let's say 314 or 512. Are you there? Okay, not coming in on that channel either. Let's try another channel. Okay, are you there? I think this has to do with Blog Talk Radio. I don't think this is local to my system. So anyhow, I'm sorry for that happening. But anyhow, we're coming close to the end of the show. And so let me give my closing thoughts here, my dear friends. We cannot leave. We cannot give up on the Trump voter. That's item number 1. We have to speak to these people, because if we believe, as for those of you who are progressives, you believe that things like race is a social construct. We also believe that we have a plutocracy that depends on us being divided to conquer. They depend on us being divided so that they can maintain their wealth. They depend on us being in that divided so that they can continue to spoof others. Any day we come together, Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, my stereotype, but it works. Anytime all these people come together, it's over. Because folks are really going to realize that we're all being played. And when folks realize that they've been played, they generally don't act nicely. My biggest fear is that the people that are being screwed the hardest right now, it's funny. The right wing think they elected a right wing person who was going to protect them, who was going to bring things, take away things from those other people and give it to them. Little did they know what they were doing is taking away things from those other people, and they were also taking away things from you and giving it to that 1% that I was talking to you about earlier. That is what's occurring. And there are a lot of these right-wingers now. They love their guns. My biggest fear is what happens when they find out that they've been had, and they've been had. How long till those guns stay silent? How long till some crazy person start to say, I will not have it this way? Folks, this is Politics Done Right. Please do remember, this is a progressive show that reaches out to everybody, progressive, liberals, right-wingers, Trump voters, everybody. That is the goal of this show. That will continue to be the goal of this show. Because you know what? I'm not asking anybody to change who they are. I'm just asking folks to realize that nobody's going anywhere. And if nobody's going anywhere, you just have to reach what I call the modus operandi. And that is a mode in which we can all operate successfully. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And thank you so kindly for listening.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES, that is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.